can't be silent anymore. I can't keep watching anymore. What's dear to me is dear to my God. I can't shed more tears, I know it's time to fight. It's time to remove the mask. For once let us be honest. We parents will not step back. Our children deserve the best. Punished for protecting them. Where is the justice in all that? Our voices rise because our love is deep. Return the innocent, hear our hearts beat. Yeah, yeah. It's time to remove the mask. For once let us be honest. We parents will not step back. Our children deserve the best. It's time to remove the mask. For once let us be honest. We parents will not step back. Our children deserve the best. It's time to remove the mask. For once let us be honest. We parents will not step back. Our children deserve the best.
Hello and welcome everyone to Punish for Protecting live broadcast today. We have a very, very amazing story today to show you and to tell you, and we want to welcome you to the 3 separate broadcasts that are playing right now live. We have Punish for Protecting News on Facebook, so thank you to the audience that's watching from there. We have over here CPS News Network, which I thank for allowing us to have this triune broadcast. And we also have the YouTube channel, my YouTube channel, Punished No More and Free to Protect. Hi, I'm Francesca Amato, and I am the author of Punished for Protecting, The Injustice System of Family Court. You can get your copy on Amazon. Also, I have a nonprofit organization called Punished for Protecting, and I'm a national advocate with expert background in domestic violence, child abuse, and Americans with disabilities. Today's story is going to, let alone not only blow your mind, but really anger you to no end. It's absolutely going to anger you to no end. I have today several victims in my queue today that are going to come out and tell their story about Dr. Nathanson. Dr. Nathanson. And on the screen right here, I'm going to show you some of the things that Dr. Nathanson has done to these families. Number one, Dr. Nathanson is a PhD in Buffalo, as I have a special power. I see delusional disorder in 5 out of 7 cases and take kids away from parents despite the DSMV saying a circumscribed delusional disorder occurs in only less than 2% of the non-institutionalized population. Here's another. Dr. Nathanson. I called New York State Police and CPS, telling them not to investigate children's disclosure of sex abuse. CPS and police listened to me. Now the children are in the custody of the man they disclosed sex abuse from. And this happens much too often. Dr. Nathanson, PhD, I ignored a father's concerns. His child wasn't safe and called him delusional, paranoid, and ranting. The child later died. Dr. Nathanson, PhD of Buffalo, New York. Here's another. Well, it never occurred to me I should report that a 39-year-old courting a 16-year-old and moving in with her age at 18 is pedophilia. So these are the victims that are on this program today. So go ahead and share this live feed and invite your friends list, no matter which platform you're watching from, because my guests today are going to be telling their stories of the damages that Dr. Nathanson has done to them. My very first guest that I'm going to bring in, she's going by the name of Sunny. And so I have two guests that are coming on today that are one is anonymous and one is semi-anonymous. So here I have Sunny. She's going to be my first guest because Sunny, hi and welcome to the show today. Sunny has a plethora of information on all of these cases. So Sunny, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and lay a little foundation as to how you're involved in this whole Dr. Nathanson case and scandal.
Hi, Fran. Thanks for inviting me, and thanks for taking this cause to heart and publicizing it for us. I am a physician assistant, and I have looked into all these cases, and Dr. Nathanson did these things in my family as well that you have displayed.
So, Sunny, so you're one of the victims as well as you've also kind of spearheaded an investigation on Dr. Nathanson. Is that correct?
Yes, I assisted families to come forward before the New York State Department of Education in the investigation of Nathanson's conduct. Dr. Nathanson is also the Buffalo School's psychologist.
It's absolutely horrible what he's done. Why don't you tell the audience what he's done specifically to you and your family, and then I'll bring in the other guest and you can kind of help me with some of their stories.
In my family situation, my ex-husband is a former attorney for Niagara County Child Protective Services. And our children disclosed sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse from their father. Dr. Nathanson has a history of exclusively taking cases for CPS in the courts. And therefore, he recognizes his practice is based on referrals and has to please CPS, basically. So he assisted in the cover-up scandal of my children's abuse.
Sorry about that. It's mind-blowing to me. It's very upsetting to me and very disheartening to me. And that's why I wanted to do this live today and bring in some of the victims. Obviously, as you know, Sunny, we're calling her Sunny, by the way, to keep her autonomy. But there are more victims, okay? But he diagnosed the majority of victims with that they were delusional. Okay, now you and I have spoken to, and I'm speaking to you right now, many of these victims, I've never once seen any of them delusional. Have you? And what do you want to say about that? And what did he diagnose you with?
Yeah, like I said, I'm a physician assistant and I'm licensed to prescribe medications and diagnose mental health conditions. And Dr. Nathanson tried saying that many of us are delusional. The DSM-5, which is the go-to handbook of mental health disorders, recognizes that delusional disorder is only prevalent in, like you said, 0.02% of the population. And what you see oftentimes are these court psychologists fraudulently applying this diagnosis of delusional disorder to assist in kidnapping children from safe parents to abusers.
Sorry about that. As a national advocate, yes, I see this every day. I see this in almost every single court that I court watch across the country. I have been court watching judges for over 14 years. So I blame the judges. I always blame the judges because they're making the orders and they're allowing this. But this Dr. Nathanson, and the issue with Dr. Nathanson is that there was a full-on investigation that yielded nothing. And I was a part of that investigation. And so were many other professionals and experts a part of that. And the victims and it yielded nothing. And that infuriated me and you. That infuriated us. And so talk about that. Let's talk about that, because this is what encompasses the family court in every county and state that I've observed over the years, getting to know these families and seeing that these false diagnoses, CPS is very good at putting and writing that people have undiagnosed mental illness, which, hello, how do you even, what does that even mean? She has undiagnosed mental illness out there in some abstract land and far, far away. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about this investigation, and then I'm going to bring in our next guest.
Well, like I said, the New York State Department of Education did get involved in investigating the conduct of Dr. Nathanson. And I reiterate that he is a psychologist in the Buffalo Public Schools. And the New York State Department of Education basically has condoned his performance by their inaction. And all of these cases that you outlined in the beginning with the little statements next to his name, those are true cases that existed and what was found in exploration of his conduct. Yet New York State Department of Education says that this conduct is okay and didn't even get any disciplinary action.
Zero disciplinary action. And I wrote a couple of letters, and I know you wrote some very, very good letters back to them. I reviewed your emails and so on. And I said, so basically you are complicit to this now. And you're also now, and I'm an ADA expert advocate. So I'm sitting here saying they have now not only disparaged every single one of these families, but they're now complicit in the crime of the harm that we're going to see today in this live video. We're going to see the harm that has up to the point of a child dying thanks to this whole structure. I mean, I don't just blame Nathanson, although obviously this is what this is about, his false diagnoses, but the judges that are putting these orders in place and CPS workers and all the rest that are just doing this together in their little wink, wink, nod, nod organization as they're making money off of the lives of your children and mine and our country and so on. But
if I can say,
to
my case is the one where Dr. Nathanson did call the police and called CPS and told them not to investigate. This is a crime of obstruction of law enforcement investigation to prevent the arrest of their father, who is a former attorney for Niagara County CPS. And to date, no one has held him accountable for this. And this is excusable conduct that does not receive disciplinary action by the New York State Department of Education. So therefore, my children were placed in the custody of the man they disclosed sex abuse from, absent any real investigation. In fact, the children were never referred to the Child Advocacy Center for multidisciplinary investigation. They were just placed into their father's custody.
And, first of all, I have a lot to say about the CAC, which is the Child Advocacy Center, because everywhere we look, well, first of all, CAC has been sued. Major law firms have taken on large volumes of families, victims, child victims, and victims that are now children that have become adults for free, because there was a window of time that was open, and I was finding all the victims, and actually they were coming to me, and I was kind of sending them over to these law firms because CAC is doing this every day. They're closing their eyes. This is why we know that this is a child trafficking industry. They're intentionally not doing a forensic with a nurse, with a sane nurse, sane, SANE, forensics on these children to see if there's actual child abuse or sexual abuse. They're ignoring it. They're not doing it on purpose. They're intentionally not, doing a proper forensic evaluation of these children. They're doing it intentionally. And so children are having ongoing sexual abuse. They're having ongoing, molestation and so on and so forth in the group homes, in the foster care homes, et cetera, et cetera. This list just goes on and on and on. And that's where the lawsuits are coming in. I want to show you something real quick that somebody wrote. I don't know if you're familiar with this particular lady. I'm going to post her on here because I do want to show we have some documents that we're going to show you that there's no way around it. But this lady is Zonyville Cheryl. Does that ring a bell to you? Wish I could have been on this with Albert Sleeger, because Albert will be one of our guests today. She said, because I have things to say about David Nathanson as well. I have a visit with Albert and the children today. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. That's Cheryl. That's the wife. I'm sorry. Forgive me. I realize who that is. Yes, that's a guest that will be coming out today, and she's got a visit with her children today. This is a couple whose child was murdered, or sorry, not murdered, but who died due to the negligence of Dr. Nathanson, the judge, and the judge is involved, and them not protecting this child, which we're going to be bringing him out and we're going to be talking about that. So forgive me for that. I seen the zoning bill and I didn't realize it was you. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring out, I'm going to go ahead and bring out, let's see, Anonymous. Let's bring out Anonymous right now. Let's add her to the stream. This woman is going to be completely anonymous, but I want you to, going to welcome you first to the screen, and I'd like you to please, tell us who you are and what you do. What is your background, and how Dr. Nathanson affected you. Is her mute off? Okay, your mute is off. Make sure you check your mute. Let's bring her back in. Turn your mute off, or on rather. Turn it back on now so we can hear you. And that would be Anonymous. Here. Well, we're just hearing breathing. This is a very powerful, horrible story. We cannot hear you.
If it helps, Fran, I could do a little bit of an introduction.
Why don't you go ahead and we'll.
Yeah, this Anonymous's case was another one that I did a review on based on the court transcripts and deposition of Dr. Nathanson. Anonymous's case is the one where Dr. Nathanson advised to the court she was imminent danger because she dared to cry in front of her children during difficult divorce proceedings. But yet, Dr. Nathanson made no mention in his report about the fact that when the child goes to the father's house, she is in regular contact with a registered violent sex offender.
So I'm going to put that up on the screen because I have here, I have the sex offender here on the screen, and where he hides the sex offense. Do I have the right one here? He hides the sex offense, the sex offenders. He hides the fact that he's a sex offender. And here's, we have the sex offender registry, sex offender details page right here on the screen. You guys can see this. Just want to get it up there for a minute or two so you guys can see this. So now this is just unbelievable. So this is not a direct family member, but this is they didn't even put a safeguard up, not even a child, not even a protective order to keep this person away.
Yes, it is the girlfriend's father. Also noted in Dr. Nathanson's report were other nuances, such as Anonymous's work history and college education, where he eviscerated her because despite her other degrees, she didn't finish one of them while she had her children. And yet the father has no degree. And the mother, he said, because she didn't pass one of her college courses, that she was a bad influence on the children, but the father with absolutely no degree is a wonderful influence on the children. And we think that Dr. Nathanson is immature himself to opine on this sort of thing, when we found on Dr. Nathanson's website pictures of his wife posting their children drinking out of beer bottles. We don't think that the child was drinking the beer, but it's an inappropriate picture and puts forth evidence he is not mature to opine on parenting skills.
I have the picture up right there. That would be Dr. Nathanson's wife, I do presume. And that is the child, and that is clearly a beer bottle. Now, this is somebody that, let's put it this way. This is just an ethics issue. This is a clear ethics issue. First of all, if you're a professional, you're working in the courts. Obviously, we have to blame these judges for, like, if a judge was to hear, if any judge was to hear these where you said he opined this information, he made this, assessed this opinion that, she didn't continue her education, so there's something wrong with her, but the father that has no education, he's completely fine. And that a judge just actually took that to heart and actually, took that as a serious situation. That scares me very much. At the end of the day, it's the judge that signs these orders. Like, it's the judge that signs these orders. So here's another picture. I let me see if I can get this. I need to get this where we can see it. It says, "We will not." I cannot read the rest of it. We will not. But this is him and his wife. And obviously this is the one with him and his wife, or his wife and the baby drinking out of a beer bottle. It's just absolutely, it's awful. Going back to your story before hopefully we get Anonymous in here where she can speak about her case a little bit. I just want to go back to your story a little bit, Sunny, because we have some things here that I'd like to show the audience. Like I said, we had lots and lots of evidence, but would you be able to kind of go over what this is right here on the screen? I don't know if you can see that. I have 3 separate pictures here on somebody's mute needs to come off.
Okay. So the first picture, if you could just scroll back to it, are you able to do that?
Yes, I am. Is that one with the arrows?
Okay. This is a document that is redacted of my children's names, but here is an instance where my children reported to their school counselor that as a form of punishment, their father would choke our daughter. And my son stated that he saw it happen and that she would stop breathing. My daughter ran away multiple times from her father. There are multiple police reports because of these runaways, and still he advocated for custody to the father. I have no arrest history. I am a licensed professional. I have a good income. I don't smoke. I rarely drink. I've never been found to be abusive of children. I'm a very good mother. I was the primary caretaker before all of this basic fraud before the courts occurred. The next one, if you could show that, this is Judge Daniel Furlong in court. And this is him calling my children's counselors ex parte, telling them to disregard any medical facts, past or present, concerning child sexual abuse by their father. And Buffalo Child and Family Services told the court, apparently, because the judge put this on the record, that they were going to be complicit with his directive to ignore any past or ongoing medical evidence of sexual abuse of my children.
Okay, and then I have the other.
This is my daughter's written statement that she wrote when she was just about 8 years old. It's her written hand testimony of her father's sexual abuse. CPS knows that this was written while at her father's house. So therefore, this is not a coached statement. She was not around me when she was with her father. And when CPS got this, which again, Niagara County CPS, the same CPS he used to be an employee of, an attorney for, when they got this, they did not call the police. They did not forward a copy of this to the police. They did not schedule an interview with the Child Advocacy Center. Again, they listened to Dr. Nathanson and who said not to talk to the children about their disclosures of abuse.
I mean, this is a heartbreaking letter here, and it's as obvious as the day is long. Now, it was done in the father's care, but honestly, even if it was done in the mother's care, all right, we have to mute the other. Your line is not muted. Sunny, you're not muted. Sorry. They can hear the back. Okay, sorry about that. So even if it was done in the mother's care, it doesn't matter. Like, this is horrible, and this definitely would warrant an investigation. And of course, they ignore it. That's what they do. They ignore it. They don't care. Okay, that's what this comes down to. So, I mean, this is as clear as day. My dad is mean to me. He hurts me a lot. He punches my private. Okay, I wouldn't need to go past line 3.
It's pinches my privates.
Oh, he pinches. Oh, so he pinches my privates. Okay. And it hurts a lot. I don't like it at all. I don't like grandma or grandpa. I love mom and not them. They're mean and selfish. How in the world can you just not investigate this, and this is why they're all being sued. This is why it made it to that level. Um, like I said, CAC is Child Advocacy Center. It's the police that are involved in this. Okay, and we've talked about this. We've had others on the program that, we hate police. We're not those people. We're law-abiding human beings that are intelligent, that cannot believe that this is what this system is. That this is what has come of this horrific system. So I'm going to go ahead and try to bring in Anonymous and see if she can come in now. If this doesn't work, I'm going to bring in Jody Gracer next. Let's just see if we have her. Anonymous, are you able to talk at this time?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great. So tell us what your profession is. We did show the pedophilia, or we did show the sex registry on the screen. And this is a person that is a member of the family, not your family, but the father's side, the girlfriend, I think, of the father. Is that correct? Did I have that right?
Yes.
Okay, so go ahead, tell the audience like what your job title is, what you do for a living, and what's happened to you, and what Dr. Nathanson and the courts have done to you. And
I am actually a preschool teacher at a state licensed childcare. Dr. Nathanson stated that I, again, am uneducated, and that he discredited the state licensed daycare that I work at, as well as the director and the other owner of that. Said that everybody backpedaled and that there should be all discredited. He also diagnosed me, or alluded to the fact that I may have a mental illness, which he felt was that it was paranoid schizophrenia, due to the fact of being constantly harassed. And I had physical evidence of video footage as well as other evidence showing the reason why I suggested all this to him. And he suggested and requested that the child would be going to the father instead of staying where she is. And I've never had any issues. I'm, again, just like everyone else, a law-abiding citizen, never been arrested, never had any concerns or anything. And Dr. Nathanson refused to listen to anyone on my side, as well as reach out to certain advocates, as well as counselors and the school. Then he was stated that I manipulated the school as well as these other people that were on my side, or that I would like him to reach out to.
it's absolutely crazy, and how they could even say that you manipulated something that is. I'm looking at it in black and white. I mean, I'm looking at the sex offender charges. It's as clear as day. Your educational background, what you do for a living, the fact that, I'm sorry, but like, if you can see, these are all happening to. This is all happening to mothers. It's all happening with clear-cut abuse that you cannot dispute. Okay, and it's either, and then the other one is it's either a happily married couple or a happily together couple that I see this happening to the bulk of. Okay, it's just absolutely sick, and I appreciate you coming on here and telling your story, Anonymous. Did you want to add anything else to that before I bring the next guest on?
Can I? Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Sonny.
To see there's a parallel here. We haven't talked about the Albert Schleger case just yet, but the parallel being that when Anonymous reported that she was being harassed and stalked by her ex, Nathanson called that as being paranoid and delusional. And the same thing happened in Albert Schleger's case that we know a little bit about. When he reported that children were not safe in foster care, he was called paranoid and delusional, and all the same things he reported are the reason the child died.
That's right. And I want to tell the audience, we have Albert, and his wife is not able to come on today, but we're going to be bringing him out with the situation with his child that was killed, thanks to the courts and Dr. Nathanson. I also have Jody Gracer that's going to be coming out. I have Tiffany Downs is another horrific case, victim of Dr. Nathanson. You're going to see the intelligence of these women, the intelligence of this father, and the just the hard horrible things that they've had to endure. Jody's been one of my one of the people that I've been helping for over 2 years now. So I know her story, inside and out, and it's a Judge Lavallo case, which we're going to get into a little bit. But let me go ahead and bring Albert out onto the screen right now, and I'm going to go ahead and just for the sake of, I'm going to remove you from the stream right now, anonymous, just for the sake of visual so people can see. Here's Albert right now. Hi, Albert. Welcome, and thank you for being on, and make sure everybody else is muted, please, so we can hear him. Oh, let's bring him back in. Just make sure everybody else is muted, please. Okay, Albert's going to have to leave and come back in. I cannot bring him back in. Yes, I can. Never mind. Stay where you are. Stay where you are. We got you.
Yeah, I'm right here.
Okay, there you are. Hi, welcome, and thank you for coming, and thank you for telling the story today. I hear lots of background noise, so I don't know if somebody's watching this in a car.
No, I'm sitting in my truck right now.
Okay, but is there another device playing it in the background?
No, it's just
Okay.
it's just traffic.
Okay, great. Okay, all right. I just want to make sure, and we're both muted, right? Me and Sunny are muted. Okay, so Albert, go ahead. Tell a little bit about. We have so much information on your case; it's unbelievable. I mean, I have.
Well, our son Albert Slager was wrongfully removed from us.
Yeah, your son was removed from you guys, and so the two of the issues that we had. Number one was that your wife had postpartum depression, which is treatable and manageable, but you both are disabled, and you both are together at home, so you were both taking care of the children together. So there wasn't really not an issue. And then what was the other issue that they stated?
Oh, our house is a little messy because I was moving her stuff from her other place to my house.
Okay, so your house was a little messy, which is something that people know, that I had a blow up video on, New York State Assembly, where, Cheerios on the floor. Let's take the children. If they're being molested, that's okay. We'll leave them. But if there's Cheerios, we'll. And here we have a situation here. I have a letter up. And you know what? If you can mute while I'm speaking, I think that's the problem with it. We can't both be unmuted at the same time. Okay. No, you have to mute while I'm speaking. Let me see if I can do it for you. Okay, I have to do it for him. I'm sorry. So here you see on the screen is a letter, and this is the letter, and it's hard for me to read it. It's hard for me to see it on the screen right now myself, but it's from a medical provider, and it states that he has basically there's no concerns with Mr. Albert Slager. There's no concerns there. So why don't we talk about that, and then talk about what you've accomplished and so on and so forth in your life, what's going on right now, and what they're doing with your children now, and what happened with your child.
Well, right now they're trying to do forced adoption on our kids. They're saying we can't take care of them. And I was recently kicked out of Catholic Charities due to the fact that they started an argument over me putting a code on my daughter saying I was attempting to inflict injuries, which that's false. And I did call in a complaint to a supervisor, Miller, and Sarah Savay, the one I complained about, was the one that they kicked me out of Catholic Charities. So there's no accountability for them. They're located at Bailey and Broadway. Hello?
Yes, there's zero.
Yeah.
Hold on. You got to keep muting when I'm speaking. Otherwise we have horrible background noise. I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. I'm sorry about that. So yes, Catholic Charities. I mean, that's just we have a whole other, we could do a whole show on that. But I understand that the one up in Erie, the one up by you guys up in that whole vicinity up there in Erie is really corrupt. But what happened with your child, and what did Dr. Nathanson do? You had major concerns with the baby, and what did Dr. Nathanson do?
Well, Nathanson did nothing. I told him the house was overcrowded, and everything, and he just said I was mentally ill because I complained about them, pretty much. That's what Donna Rakowski said, that I'm mentally ill because I made complaints about the former foster parents. And then she filed a TPR based on that too. It's crazy.
So here on the screen, we have your daughter, and how old is she here, and what is What is her name for the audience's sake, and what happened?
Sarah Slager, and she was 21 months old. It's a shame. I pleaded with my caseworker, Dolores Cooper, to get her out of that house, and she said the kids were safe, and she was lying, saying that they had their own bedrooms. And the town of Hamburg police said that they were sharing two small bedrooms, all the kids. There were special needs kids mixed with our kids.
And that's a big no-no. And then
Yeah.
what ended up happening with her? What happened? What ended up happening with little Sarah? What happened?
Well, the video wasn't recorded, they claim, and she somehow got a bunch of lacerations on her body and fell in the pool. And according to the Child and Family Fatality Report, she was in the pool 6 to 10 minutes. But David Coffey claimed that the one responsible in the report said that he went in the house to get a drink of water for 3 minutes, but that's a clear lie. He can't even keep his story straight.
And so then she just drowned, and there was nobody there to save her. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct, pretty much. And furthermore, the foster mother, there was an injury to an infant at another property in the town of Boston, and she wasn't watching the kid, and the kid had lacerations causing permanent disabilities, and also she decided to attempt to sue the property owners because it happened on their property. But she's very negligent, and the county should never put the kids in that house in the first place.
So these children obviously don't belong in this foster care. Don't belong in any of it. Dad was called delusional by Dr. Nathanson because he made repeated calls in because he had major concerns for obvious reasons, and his daughter ended up drowning to death. Okay, his young baby. So I want to just thank you. I think Sunny has something to say. You're on mute right now. Just bear with it for a second. And Sunny, I think you have something to say about that.
Yeah, just a few things I want to add about this case. We did look up and we found the Office of Children and Family Services Child Fatality Report. Sarah passed.
So I want to just thank you. I think Sunny has something to say. You're on mute right now. Just bear with it for a second. And Sunny, I think you have something to say. Keep going. Just keep going.
She passed in June of 2021, and the Child Fatality Report was released in November. And it's very striking that all of Albert's complaints prior to Sarah's passing were not mentioned in this office of this child fatality report. There is zero mention of any of his concerns that he expressed prior to her passing. The Office of Children and Family Services.
I think you went on mute for a second. I need you to go back to the part where you said the Office of Child and Family Services.
They did not contact Albert or Cheryl for any of their insight to the child's passing. And so all of his complaints prior to her passing is non-existent in the eyes of this child fatality report by Office of Children and Family Services. The other thing is there are glaring inconsistencies in the child fatality report versus the police report. The Office of Children and Family Services says that the home study, the report submitted to the state, said that the pool alarm was working and the gate was locked. The police report says the gate to the pool the latch was broken, the hinge, and the pool alarm was turned off. That is not in the Children and Family Services child fatality report. The other issue is the baby's mom had access 4 days before. The baby is 21 months old at this time, was noted at the park not to be able to climb. The police report says there were 6 narrow steps to climb up to get to the pool deck. And then the baby had to get over this gate. This baby could not climb. The Office of Children and Family Services report says law enforcement felt it was not probable for the baby to be able to do this. Who did it? Who put the baby in the pool? It's not answered and not investigated.
That's a very good point. And I'm sorry for your loss. And we're just going to continue to expose this doctor till he's removed. He needs to be removed. He needs to be held accountable for all of this. And so do the judges that have made these orders. Right now, you and your wife is on the way right now to have a supervised visit with the other children, the your other children, which I think is absolutely just disgusting. And what is going on with your case? Let me go ahead and unmute you. What is going on with your case, Albert?
Oh, well, we're in the middle of a TPR trial. We go back to court on the 14th for continuing of the trial. And I'm not allowed in Catholic Charities or on the property, but my girlfriend is. I was harassed about the way I put a coat on my daughter, and it's ridiculous. I complained about her to her supervisor, Miller, is the last name of the supervisor, and Sarah Savay is the one that handles the complaints. It's ridiculous. It's very unacceptable. And then I went to see my caseworker, Megan Cooper, with Erie County DSS. She said I have serious concerns, but she won't say what the serious concerns are. It's all made up lies. So they're trying to terminate our rights and trying to make us lose our family. It's wrong. It's very unacceptable. Yeah, and also the coffees, after the pool drowning, they were given their special needs kids back, and that's also wrong too. And they're also they have petitions in to try to steal our other kids back into the house when they were told that they're incapable of taking care of kids. So why?
I'm not sure what happened there. The sound went out and then I hit mute. It's absolutely horrible. And the fact that they have concerns, we heard this all the time. We have concerns. So you're holding people's children because you have concerns. What are these concerns? And they have nothing. They don't have a leg to stand on, but yet your child was killed in their care. That's a concern. They don't see that. I want to thank you for being on. We have a very limited amount of time, and I need to bring Tiffany out, and then I need to bring out Jody. I think I'm going to bring Tiffany Downs in next. But Sonny, if you had a quick thing, go ahead and say it. Thank you so much, Albert. Thank you for being in.
Yeah, one of Albert's statements literally to Dr. Nathanson was, Mrs. Coffey's mistakes can be fatal. He literally said those words before his child's death. And Dr. Nathanson, instead of ensuring the children's safety, chose to retaliate on Albert and his wife by calling them paranoid, delusional, and ranting. The other thing is that Dr. Nathanson picks on Albert and Cheryl for their disabilities, yet Albert owns his own home. They are paying for their own private attorney. They are paying for their own expert witness. Yet Dr. Nathanson opines that it's an unstable home, but Dr. Nathanson himself has filed bankruptcy. So how is he a fair judge of a parent's ability to provide a stable home environment?
And there's Dr. Nathanson's bankruptcy on the screen right now, as a matter of fact. And then I also have Dr. Nathanson's arrest record right there. Do you know anything about that, Sonny, real quick, before I bring Tiffany's on, actually, but we're going to introduce her in a second here. But there's his arrest record. What's that about?
I don't know too much about that other than what's before you there.
I think Tiffany does. I'm not quite sure, but I'll go back to that in a second. Let me go ahead and bring her out. Thank you, Sonny, if you could just mind hanging out for a little bit. And hi, Tiffany. Thank you for being on and welcome. And you can go ahead and hit unmute and tell us a little bit about yourself and what's happened with Dr. Nathanson.
Hi, I'm Tiffany. My story spans over almost 17 years that I've been tied up in the family court system, but my dealings with Dr. Nathanson was some 15 years ago. During my time of being evaluated by him, at no time did he mention the domestic violence in my home, the fact that my husband at the time and I were together since I was 16 years old. He was 39 and I was 16. The end evaluation, I feel, weighed in on why my rights were eventually terminated on my child in Erie County. I did have ETPR. My rights have been terminated on my now 16-year-old child. He stated pretty much that I made careless life decisions, that he never saw me making any smarter decisions, that I was incapable of making wise decisions in caring for a child. Mind you, I was 19, pretty much raised by my husband in a sense. And he never once touched on any of that, even though we were in family court due to domestic violence that was happening in the home, where my son actually got injured at 6 weeks old due to the domestic violence. My story goes on where during our TPR trial, I had gotten pregnant with my now 10-year-old child, and the attorney, Mr. Kevin Gibbons, went on to tell my husband, he was my husband's attorney, went on to tell my husband that we better move to Niagara County and get the hell out of Erie County so they can't take any more of our children. And we did that. And surprisingly, we were TPR'd on a child in Erie County and went on in Niagara County to have 4 more children.
It's terrible. And you do have your children now, though. Is that correct, Tiffany? Just to be clear for the audience.
To go further, in 2016, because I learned to keep my mouth shut about the domestic violence in my home. I was pretty much my husband's captive. He held me captive. I was never allowed to get my license. He drove me to and from work. He told me what I could and couldn't do, who I could talk to, everything. In 2016, my son, who was 4 at the time, went to preschool scared because there was an incident that occurred the night before, and he told his preschool teacher about it. CPS got involved. They had placed at the time there was only 3 boys, in foster care. I had just recently found out I was pregnant with my now 4-year-old child, and they placed them into foster care. And we were in front of a judge here. I had a mental health evaluation that, in a sense, favored me. I had Judge Batt at the time was the Niagara County judge. I separated from my husband. I got my license, got a job, got an apartment. I was making all the right steps to bring my boys home to me while I was pregnant with my daughter. And I was pretty much told my children would be brought back to me from foster care shortly after the delivery or the birth of my daughter. And we were all prepared for that, except for Judge Batt took in early retirement due to health reasons, and a Judge DeLabio, who is now the sitting judge here in Niagara County, took the bench. And the day after my daughter was born, there was an emergency order to remove my daughter, and Judge DeLabio gave my abuser, my children's abuser, sole custody of all 4 of my children.
So
it was shocking.
Unfortunately, Tiffany, it's not shocking to me. I mean, it's shocking. It is shocking, but it's not shocking to me that they're giving children to abusers and completely omitting you and so on, because that's what they do. Okay. And re-victimizing victims, clear victims. Here you are, a kid. He's 39 years old. He's previously married. He's got this thing for kids. He's obviously got pedo in his blood, and these judges just eat it up alive and love it. And that's exactly what they did here. And I commend you, and I can feel your pain, and I commend you for how far you've come and what you've had to endure, and how awful. I think Sonny got kicked off for a second there. How awful it is, and what you've had to go through, and what this Dr. Nathanson, he's got no integrity whatsoever. What he's done. Sonny, did you have anything you want to remark about any of this, or? I got to unmute.
So sorry. Here we have Dr. Nathanson failing to recognize a blatant, clear case of pedophilia, where Tiffany was captured at a very young and vulnerable age. And then she was stalked the entire time she lived with this man, having cameras in her home, GPS on her phone. She couldn't do anything without being watched by her captor. And it was so bad that when she was pregnant, he wouldn't even let her have lunch money at work. This is an egregious case where somebody needed help, and the system threw her right into it. And this pedophile, violent abuser committed domestic violence in front of the children And Niagara County CPS, or whoever it was, Tiffany can clarify, and Dr. Nathanson took the children from the protective mother and put them into the violent pedophile abuser's custody. And the only way she could see her children was to go back in that house and endure this stalking domestic violence situation. And not until years later could she get her children back with a new judge.
And there's a book by Barry Goldstein. It's I think it's Scared to Leave, Afraid to Stay, where a lot of mothers are basically staying in abusive relationships because they're afraid to leave, because they know that the judges will give the children to the abuser. But then CPS will come along and say, well, you're staying with an abuser, you need to get away from your abuser, and then they're going to give the children to the abuser. It's all nuts. It's all crazy making at its finest. And this is what they're doing. And the system's evil. It's demonic, and that's the reason why it is confusion. It doesn't make sense. Okay, and that's why anybody that's come out on the other side, like you, Tiffany, I commend you, because it's a strength that comes from faith that got you to where you are today. Because you literally there's no other way to get to the end of this unscathed. So did you want to add anything else to that too, Tiffany?
I'm still not at the end of it. The only reason we're where we are today is in April of last year, I had gotten so fed up with the drug use and the abuse that me and my children were enduring under his sole custody paperwork, and I went down to family court and I filed for a modification of custody. I knew I was going to be in front of the same judge that awarded him custody. So I fought like hell. Nothing ever really came of it. But in November, my child recorded an incident, a domestic violence incident in the home. The police were called. The police viewed the video, chose to arrest my husband. During the time of his arrest, he was found in possession of drugs. And when found in possession of drugs, CPS was notified. He was charged with child endangerment, harassment, and drug possession. None of those charges were resolved. However, Niagara County CPS already unfounded his case long before he even went to his first court appearance. The only reason I ended up with my children in my care on February 4th is because we went in front of a judge. We were in divorce now. We went in front of a judge who was able to access my husband's rap sheet, did a custodial evaluation, and just felt like that was insane to leave these children in his care. He was not adequate supervision for these children, period.
So an actual judge, that's mind-blowing, that actually realizes and actually stated on the record that this was insane to leave these children in his care. That's a wonderful. Yeah. That's what we need. If we had judges like that, we wouldn't have this issue going on.
Well, this same judge is, we should talk about this, not necessarily naming her right now because of my case is still ongoing. This same judge, if you Google her, she sentenced the man to 70 years for breaking a woman's jaw. She doesn't play. And we need more judges like that, because our children, my children, I now am the sole caretaker of my children. Okay. I have 4 children, ages 10, 8, 6, and then a 4-year-old girl. I have 3 older boys and then my 4-year-old girl. Over the last several months, the amount of trauma that we are trying so hard to overcome has put us in a situation where we're all in counseling, we're all receiving services. There's things that I didn't even realize that my children felt because I was fighting for so long just to keep them safe. It's not okay that our children have to suffer like this.
No, it's not okay. It's not okay. And that's why we're doing these live videos. That's why we're doing the work that we're doing to try to end this nightmare. It is a nightmare. It is truly a nightmare. Sunny?
Yes, Fran, if I could just comment, I'm not saying this to give myself accolades, but it's one of the poetic justice things that happened in Tiffany's case. As I mentioned, my ex is a former attorney for Niagara County Child Protective Services, but he was also the person that was representing Tiffany as her children were trafficked from her being the safe mother to this violent pedophile sex abuser. And with me involved, Tiffany got her kids back, and it was beautiful and wonderful to be able to help and undo some of the injustice my ex has caused.
Oh, well, I'm super proud of you, and I do give you accolades because that's a blessing and a gift from God, and it's a miracle too, because I know that that's very difficult to do, especially since the ex is so corrupt, the court system so corrupt, and so on and so forth. So, God's hand is on your life, and that is the reason that these stories are able to turn around. I know that before I know anything at all, I know that because I know how evil this entire system is. It is absolutely evil, and I know that the Lord is using people to make these things, to make this happen, because it's just so bad. It's just so bad. And you just made me think of something, and I do want to not forget. I do forget on all my live videos. I haven't said it. On March 31st, I'm going to be doing a private Zoom class. If you would like to be a part of it, it is absolutely free. It's going to be 4 biblical teachings. If you're a victim of family court, I highly advise you and encourage you to come into this free 4-week class, because I do believe that there's a reason that we are not getting this whole thing down. I do believe there's a biblical reason, okay? And if that's something you want to learn, you may not like the answer that comes out during this, but it should bring you a lot of healing, and I do believe it's going to help us to take this system down, which is quite evil. So, but thank you, and I'm so happy to see that she has her children. That makes me very happy, and I can only pray that you have years of healing and restoration back to you and your children, because I know that it takes a long time to heal from this abuse. It's horrible abuse. Did you want to say something, Tiffany?
And one more thing, this judge that we're currently in front of still hasn't even granted him supervised access. So he has not seen his children, or our children, I should say, since the end of January, or since February 4th.
Thank God. And I love to hear that. And hopefully this judge will start cloning this type of judge. I don't mean that literally, but because these judges are just absolutely insane. Well, Tiffany, thank you so much for being on today and for sharing your story. I really appreciate having you come out here and exposing this Dr. Nathanson and all of the system, the whole horrible court system. And I wish the best to you. I'm going to bring on our next guest now. I'm going to bring on Jody Gracer. Jody's actually been, I've been helping Jody for about 2 years now. Let me go ahead and bring her in to the queue. We have a lot here with Jody. So Jody, you have, my thing just went expanded now, or I can't even see anything. Jody, hi, and welcome to the program today. I'm having a problem where I'm going to have to get out and get back in myself. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, and I'll be right back. You can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Jody Gracer, and I'm a victim of Dr. Nathanson as well. Dr. Nathanson it's interesting that some of the guests today have said that Dr. Nathanson had concerns. He told me that he also had concerns with the problems my son has had before he got taken from me. And then while he was still in forced foster care, he still is. This is just a hard show to even watch. That he has concerns about, the forced foster care situation too. But to be honest with you, the biggest thing he was emphasizing is that Landon had the problems when he was at home. My son has gotten different medical disabilities. Throughout the years, he has been diagnosed with 8 different diagnoses before he got taken, a couple that were consistent through forced foster care and before he got taken. So really it depends on what doctor you actually talk to is what diagnoses my son actually gets. So Dr. Nathanson told me in the very beginning that he wanted to be a person of not bias, so to speak, that he was willing to talk to and get any documentation that would basically say the other side was not telling the truth, that I was innocent and that, I should have my son back, that what they're saying isn't true. He said he would talk to my ADA advocate, Francesca Amato. He never did. He said he would talk to my friend Lori Murray RN. He talked to her in his office, but he never called her. He never looked at any documentation. He is the reason why my counselor, Melissa, which Fran, you got that letter today from her. We almost stopped being able to have our counseling relationship because he lied about her in the report that said that my son would be in imminent danger if he was to return to me, that I'm an author of child books, many different child books before my son was taken. I taught him how to read where the school couldn't. I chose to give you some of these books because I literally worked on these books and finished them while Landon was in forced foster care. And the two books for the communication among friends and the Thank You Daddy book, the Thank You Daddy book was actually before he got taken, but they're great psychology books for anybody who is a counselor, a psychiatrist, psychologist, teacher, anything like that. It really, shines the light to the creativity of my imagination and my points that I want to get across to have a healthy whole family and what that looks like. And teaching kids what that looks like as well. And what happened was,
but Jody, if I can just, if you don't mind, I just want to kind of touch on that a little bit because you got some great stuff here. If you could just mute for a second. So Jody and her son Landon both are qualified federally protected class members under the Americans with Disability Act. Jody, extremely high functioning, and Jody is an author of 3 different books in which she has written for children's levels and children with disabilities, including herself, and to show you all, which is why I'm so proud of her, what you can do with specific types of disabilities, okay? And how what upsets me as an Americans with Disability Act advocate is that I have to train judges and attorneys in order to invoke their rights and protect them under the ADA, not rip their children from them and cause further harm. So these books are just amazing to me. I mean, she has 3 books here that she has written, okay, and also taught her son Landon, which we had a really cool video. We just were not able to play it on here, to read. Okay, Landon has suffered from immunization, vaccine damages. That's what he's had, vaccine injuries and so on, and that they loaded him with more vaccines. They endangered him more because he's moved to, I think now it's like 11 different places between group homes and foster homes, which we know that under ACE research, adverse childhood experiences, this causes insurmountable amounts of anxiety and damages that are lifelong and also are known to take up to 20 years, depending on how much damage is done, off of the life of that human being that suffers and endures this type of trauma. So that, these books we wanted to show because they're just so powerful of what Jody has done, especially while she's going through all that she's going through. And also this here with Melissa Cronin, licensed social worker. Jody, if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and read what she said, and then I'm going to have you go back into what you're telling us about. But Melissa could not be on the program today, so she asked if I would please read her statement to the viewers, and I'm going to do that right now. And this is her credentials right here. You can see on the screen. And this is one of Jody's therapists, correct, Jody? If you could just nod. Thank you. I just want to affirm that for the audience for the sake of transparency. So she said, what I would like to share in regard to my interaction with Dr. Nathanson, and don't mind me for turning my head, I'm reading off of another screen, in support of Jody Gracer. Dr. Nathanson reached out to me after his assessment was conducted with Jody. I have not seen the report that was written and where I was included. Based on what was shared with me, there were many inconsistencies and my statements taken out of context and used to support Dr. Nathanson's case. Jody and I have a therapeutic relationship that works. I understand that her main mental health concern is PTSD and trauma-based, okay? And that is because of abuse. She continues to be in her trauma, so we focus on maintaining the healthiest level we can during our counseling sessions. I give her the space to vent through her emotions and regulate herself so that she can make the best choices she can to get her son back. I shared this with Dr. Nathanson about how we focus on this, as we cannot treat the trauma until she is out of the trauma. That's the whole issue. He used this as a statement that we are not doing anything to progress Jody forward in treatment, which is insane to me as an expert Americans with Disability Act advocate. That response coming from him is absolutely be past the point of unethical. It is absolutely ignorant. It's absolutely ignorant. He should be fully ashamed of himself to even say that. That would be like saying to somebody, you talk about disparaging and you talk about discriminatory. That would be like if somebody got run over by a bus and you kept that bus on top of them and demanded them to be healed at that moment so that we can give you your children back. That is just how ignorant that statement is coming from him. So he used it against them. He also asked if I saw Jody as delusional. And there goes that word again, delusional. I told him that at this time of our interaction that I did not see it. I did not say that there could possibly more that comes out after we start working on her trauma. There could be, but at this time, I do not see that. This was taken as a supportive statement to diagnose a delusional disorder. As a professional, I try to maintain a neutral ground in all situations and be supportive of the person I am working with. His statements and changes about what I said impacted my therapeutic relationship with Jody, which took some time to repair. What he did was more harmful than good and really did more damage. And I want to say, and Jody, I'm going to have you continue and elaborate more. But what I want to say about that is that with the permission of Jody and her therapist, we were allowed to bring this to the public today. And Jody, I'm extremely proud of you because I got to tell you, Jody makes an amazing advocate herself. She's endured major hardship. And, yes, she vents sometimes. We all vent sometimes. Jody, you know me very well. I find it perfectly fine because of what you're going through and how you're enduring and the abuse that your son has been through that I've watched with you over the couple of years. Go ahead, honey.
Thank you, Fran. So Dr. Nathanson, he told me that the most important part of the assessment was to see him interact with me and my son. And during the interview, my mom comes with me to all of my appointments with my son visitation, and he never suggested she not be there or that even DSS should not be there or any other agency to watch me interact and finish his assessment of that portion of the parental skills assessment I was told I was actually having Dr. Nathanson be assessing. So I created a beautiful a poem or some kind of wording that had to do with the history of gracers and what gracers meant to me and each word of what it meant. And Dr. Nathanson mocked that. He's like, well, why didn't she do Jody, do Landon Fuller? That's his last name. Because I plan on changing my son's name once I get him back, because that's part of the healing process of my son being out of a form of rape to have his name be Landon Hart Fuller. And my counselor even suggested that that was a good place to help him to heal, to get past that piece of his abusive past in my own. And so that's why I picked Gracer. I'm trying to have my son slowly forget about his Fuller DNA, so to speak. And this is that way. So I also made a beautiful blanket. It got customized for my son about, being strong and that life isn't always fair and that we have to get through it. And, it was just a really beautiful blanket. My son says that he sleeps with it every night. He has to. And I was mocked for that, obviously. My books, because I'm learning disabled, I am apparently not able to be creative. I'm not able to be an author. If you read my books are great, but there's grammar issues there. And I believe it's okay to be there because that's part of who I am. Like, you don't sit there and, basically like get rid of something that you have a challenge with. You try to, make it to be creative so it's accepted, that, this is formidable, for other people to be able to relate to, that if someone is learning disabled, they can still write and produce great books. It's the words of expression. It's the points that I make about making a better world for children and for families as a whole. It's not about the grammar needs to be perfect. And I know some people are sticklers like that, and that's fine. But don't use that against me because I'm an author of many books. I told Dr. Nathanson that I got the book Stop, Relax, and Think. It's a good book, good game for kids with ADHD. I got that immediately once I knew he was diagnosed with it. Before my son was even taken, I became a facilitator of Love and Logic parenting training that's recognized in all foster care agencies all around the world, many different courts, basic and special needs curricula. Because once I get off of SSI myself being disabled, I'd like to be able to have a financial stability for my son's future and our family for when I'm allowed to heal from this torture we've been going through. I also became a legal ordained minister. These are pieces that I've set up along the way through this experience because I want to be able to have a backup plan for when I am not on SSI anymore. But just to be disabled and to have PTSD, you shouldn't be discriminated against that. And all of the different abuses that my son has gone through for 2+ years, the piece that, Connors Residential Treatment Center in Buffalo, New York, and the lawsuit that's going on there from years ago. My friend Jesse that, was almost murdered there. I tried to bring this to the court's attention. They ignored it. You know what I mean? And my son is just ongoingly keep being, suffering. No one is teaching him his rights for being disabled, what his attorney's job is, what her job is actually violating when she doesn't do what she's supposed to do. And that's completely criminal. I mean, I've given my different documentations, witness testimony that I am innocent. My son should have been taken, that the law should have been followed. And if it would have been, we wouldn't be here today. But the courts don't care. They don't care about following the law. And, I'm still going through this. Unfortunately, I got cancer last year. I was able to heal it. But you're supposed to be able to move on and get peace from that after you've gotten cancer and heal it, not continually to be traumatized in this experience where my son is suffering ongoingly. And I sit there and I give them solutions. I give them all kinds of different ways on how to fix my son. And they completely ignore me because they're not getting paid to keep my son. Like, meaning that if he comes home, then, they're not going to get paid to deal with their people that are keeping him sick because of profit and power in this corrupt system. And that's what it comes down to. And I don't understand, like, one part of the trial, in neglect trial, I was in the ER for this. My ER doctor told me to go home and rest the rest of the week, that I should be in this least amount of stress as possible. And I did that. And I was faulted for that because I didn't take an ambulance to the ER. I didn't stay in the ER the rest of the trial time period. And that's ridiculous because you cannot sit there and constantly do this type of torture to a family, number one, disabled, PTSD, all the stuff I've gone through in my son, and expect us to stay this la happy Smurf personality and just basically negotiate with terrorists, because in my opinion, they really are. They're terrorizing our family. They are preventing us from healing in my family. My counselor, Melissa, she has an opportunity to be able to expand her licensing and help my son with other therapists already licensed for something to help my son with currently he's struggling with. And they're not sure that they're going to let my counselor work with my son. I mean, it's just every single thing that I've tried to do to get my son back. The judge says to me, well, this ain't a checklist. You just check off the boxes and you get your kid back. Then why do you put me through this torture? Why do you expect me to feel that I should be having to be in this courtroom and listen to your lies being said about me, the defamation of character of me and my son, and none of our rights are respected. None of our disability rights, our human rights, civil rights, anything is respected. And you expect me to be tortured and listen to your lies in this corrupt kangaroo court. And that's truly what it is. A real court of law is of trial by jury of your peers. That it's a non-biased experience. It is all evidence is allowed. All witness testimony is allowed. This is all hearsay that they're saying about us. I mean, the proof that I have about this case is astronomical, and it's been given worldwide to many different people. So if something ever happens to me, it will be out there. But this has to stop. I mean, this is going on in all America, and this is what we are allowing to happen, because if it's not our kids, we don't care that much. That's seriously what I feel like. So,
no, you are 100% right. I look at it too, like if you saw a marathon runner or like an athlete, in the Olympics, and they were disabled, they had a missing limb, we'd be proud of them and we'd be rooting them on. And that's what's happening here. This is a psychological injury issue that they're causing further pain and trauma, and it just keeps going, and it goes into physiological and physical and so on, and then they're disparaging you and discrediting you and discriminating against you and all of the people that are on this show today. And this is why I push the Americans with Disability Act so strong. I fight with the Department of Justice all the time to get them to hold people's rights and to do the right thing. We're getting audits all over right now. They're saying that they're seeing a trend. And you can ask Vicki. I mean, I've had her on before, and we have a lot of work that we do constantly. They're admitting there's a trend. They're auditing these courts and these specific judges that have more, worse cases or worse obvious patterns, like we see with Dr. Nathanson. But you're well spoken. We shouldn't be doing this to people. I have clients that have lost children from years ago that should have never happened. Nobody fought for their rights. Nobody fought for their rights. And the attorneys say, don't touch the ADA. Well, no, you have to, because it is a fundamental, federally protected right. It is a right that you cannot penetrate. And yet they're making up all this other nonsense. It's not true.
Can I add something to that?
Yes.
In the case of, as you're speaking of federally protected members and ADA rights, and we also have the other couple, Albert and Cheryl. And getting back to Dr. Nathanson, Cheryl put in a handwritten testimony that I saw and read that Dr. Nathanson had her alone in his office room with him, that he asked her about her history of child sexual abuse, asked her if she liked it and if she would like it to happen again. And here she is, a vulnerable, protected class member that he has alone in his office, and this is how he talked to her. She put this in her own handwriting, submitted it to the New York State Department of Education, and he is still practicing.
My question is, how is that even possible? I mean, I don't even know how I'm living on planet Earth Day with the way that this is going. I don't at all.
I mean, I have to tell you, this is what happens a lot of times, and you're right, Sonny. I was my mute wasn't going off. I wasn't able to hit it. What happens is that people react certain ways in the courts, and they use it against you when you're going through such trauma like this, and they use it against you instead of understanding. That's the reason why literally having an advocate is so important in these cases, to have somebody there to support you and to protect you and to protect your rights. And attorneys are not doing that because they don't understand the ADA. And then some judges, not all, most of them really, some of them, let's put it this way, they know the law, they just don't apply it and they don't use it. When they know the law, then things change. So what happens is that they'll try to play that card, is she practicing law without a license nonsense, which is a bunch of nonsense. I personally, as an ADA advocate, I say very clearly, I'm not a bar member. I am not a bar member. I do not get paid through the system. I do not work for the system. I work for the families. And I have to articulate what's going on here. When you want to call it practicing law, go ahead and call it that. That is the biggest bunch of nonsense I have ever heard, because we practice law every day from the minute we wake up till we go to sleep, from the time we're born till the time we die. We are practicing law. There are laws of the land. There are inherent laws inside our hearts. There are laws. There are moral laws. There are laws that happen, that we live. That's what we are. Some laws are wrong. Some laws are right. And we have to practice that every day. So don't listen to that nonsense in these fake courts, because the only thing that should matter are the lives of these families and the lives of these children. We've seen today on this live today that one little girl is no longer here. Her life was taken, but the father was called delusional because he was saying that there's something wrong. It was proven that there's something wrong, and they still have their other children. Okay, Jody's child, I've watched this case for over 2 years. It is absolutely disgusting on steroids. It's so bad. And she's owed this. I hope she ends up owning the state of New York when this is over. Okay, your case with your ex-husband, who's a lawyer, worked for CPS. I mean, it doesn't get any more obvious, people. And this is why we do so many things. We wear so many different hats. Now we're back to doing broadcasts again to get these stories out. I have Megan Walsh, John Walsh's daughter. Hello, the fact doesn't prove that this is a child trafficking industry, my friends. So I just want to thank my guests today. If you guys want to wrap this with anything that we forgot to bring out today for the audience, please let me know right now.
Yes, I just want to say, can I get that in there? I love you guys. Thank you so much for coming forward with your stories, and you're heroes, not just for your own children, you're heroes for everyone's children. And don't let anyone make you feel like they stole your motherhood. You're not just being a mother for your own children, you're being a mom for everyone's kids by the way you're sticking up and fighting this corruption. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you as well. And right back at you with that one. And yes, absolutely. My guests are just powerful and amazing. Let's show this right here. I do want to show this. If anybody can see this on the screen, I think Jody sent me this. This is actually showing, and I've often talked about this because, there's a whole father's rights nonsense that's out there. And I'm not saying I'm against fathers having rights. That's not what I'm saying at all. So don't change my words. Okay, but if you can look here on the screen, this is something, there's proof right there. This is what I've been saying. The father's rights want to say that the fatherless home causes serial killers. And I've been saying that is such a bunch of nonsense and so insulting, because unfortunately many women have had to flee from abusers. Okay, and their children are not safe with an abuser, and men have had to flee from abusers too with their children and keep them safe in a one-parent household. Of course, that's not ideal, and I believe in God, and I believe in God's order, and I believe in husband, wife, male, female together, married and that's what I believe in. But in a broken and sinful world, we don't have that, and so children should be raised by one safe, loving, secure, and social science empirical social science research proves this. Okay, it is not the fatherless home. What they're going after right now is the motherless home. Okay, that's really dangerous. And it's like the fathers that have custody of children that are good dads, that maybe mom is out, hooking in the streets and she's doing crack cocaine. I'm all for that. Okay, but 22 serial killers who were adopted. Okay, there was a series on Netflix, and I wish I could think of the name of it right now, but every single one of these children, every single one of them that had murdered, that were in prison, that had, I forget the name of the show. It was another program. Every single one of them did not come from biological homes. They came from the foster care system and adoption industry. That's where they came from. And you have to remember, okay, you have to remember that even if these children are raised in a good home, and I mean like they're taken from their biological family, and they're raised and they're adopted by the most amazing families. And that does happen sometimes. I'm not putting down the adoptors. Okay. All of the adopters are blinded. They don't know what happened on the way to their house. Okay. But these adoptors, okay, even with the best of homes, and they've given their child everything you can think of, the most love and so on, those children, their souls are searching for their biological family, because that's who God created them to be. This said right here, if you look as best as I can see it, let me see if I can get rid of this. This says right here, I've got to get rid of something. Hold on, and then I can do this for you better. Here we go. Now I can read it, hopefully. Well over, Scott O'Brien wrote in the comments there, well over 90% of all prison inmates. Now listen to this statistic. It's over 90%. This proves my point. Over 90%. So watch out for religious churches, and I'm all for fellowship and God's people and all that. But watch for this fake fatherless home, which beats women down even further. That says, that these women, I've seen some stuff on Facebook that I literally cringe when I see it. It's this religious nonsense that's not of God at all. But it's over, just, oh, these women have problems and they hate all men. And none of that is true. It's the farthest thing from the truth. They don't hate all men at all whatsoever. Okay. But well over 90% of all prison inmates, listen to carefully, grew up in the foster care system. Okay. They grew up in the foster care system. It is a system for making criminals, and the government makes a profit every step of the way. So leaving you guys on that note today, I thank you all for being here today. I thank you all for watching this program today. I thank you all who have shared this live, who've listened to these families. There's many more of them, unfortunately. I thank you all for those. If you go to punishforbeingaaparent.com and you go to the book a talk section, you can book a conversation with me where we can take on your case potentially. If you want to get the book, you can go to Amazon for the book, Punish for Protecting the Injustice System of Family Court. I thank you guys who are watching on CPS News Network. Props to Danny. I thank you for those that are watching on Punish for Protecting News, and those who are watching on the YouTube channel, Punish No More and Free to Protect, which would be the next book coming out. We're still working on it, but the next book that will be coming out, we do want to abolish this system. We want to take this system down. Again, today was the exposing of Dr. Nathanson by his victims. Honestly, I really don't have much more I can say because I think the victims and their stories speak for themselves. And it saddens me to know that this is still going on in our nation. I'd like to say God bless you all and thank you for being here, each and every one of you. And remember, March 31st, if you'd like to take our free class, it's a biblical class. I do believe it will help you heal. I also believe that there's an area that we need to repent as the body of Christ in order to take down this, which I believe is a very, very big hierarchy of demons that have been allowed and have legal ground due to certain things that I will discuss only in the private class. So thank you guys. Hope you join and have a very blessed day.